So we're going to begin part two now, and part two is where we're going to set up the page to receive the information. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set up what's referred to as a div structure. The div tag defines a division or a section in an HTML document, and it's used to group block elements to format them, and normally used along with the CSS style sheet. Okay, the three things you'll come across basically will be the class, the ID, and the style. Two things that we'll be doing a lot here today would be the ID, which will specify the unique ID for the element, and the style that's going to happen within it. Alright, so basically we're going to set up about 4 or 5 of them now. We're going to set up the first one, which is the container, and again, if you refer to your book on page 11, you'll actually see the breakdown of the divs and how we're going to set them up. So basically we're going to have the container div, and within the container div it's going to contain the banner div, the navbar div, the navbar2 div, the main area, and the footer. Okay, so within the body we're going to start the first div. So just get rid of this text here, and we'll open up the first div. So it's div space ID, which is the identifier, equals, and then the name that we're going to call it. In this instance, we're going to call the initial one the container. And the reason I use this word basically is because it contains all the divs I intend to use on my web page, and I just think it's a good word. And I'm going to close out the div. Because this is the main div of the web page for me, I'm actually going to place that div way down the bottom of the page. Might actually pull those a little bit closer. Okay, so what I need to do now is I need to set up what the container is and how it should look on my style sheet. So I'll just save that work there for one moment. I'll pop across to my style sheet and I will set up the ID for the container. So I'm going to start off with a hash symbol because it's an ID issue. It's a container, again with a squiggly bracket, sorry, that one. And then again what I want my container to be made up as. The first thing I want to specify the background color for it. And the background color I'm going to have is a hash symbol and 6 C's. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, these colors become more obvious when we actually look at the color page when we do headers and colors on one of the pages within the website that we're building. The next thing I want to know or tell it is the width of the overall container. And like we discussed, I'm going to make this into 800 pixels, which is a pretty standard width for a normal web page. And I'm going to tell it the margin now to the right is I want it to be auto, and the margin to the left I also want it to be auto. And what that simply means is that no matter what type of screen this will go on, it will automatically be centered into the middle, and again the end of the container. So that's the container done. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go back out, and again just going to quickly run it in the IE in launch to see what it's looking like currently. There won't be too much of a change, to be honest with you, as you can see, until we start to put something into the container. Okay, one of the things I do find, however, with this particular Notepad++ is even though I tell it to put the margins automatically to the center, I always back it up here actually with an extra div to center. And again, that's just making absolutely sure it will be actually centered on the page. And again, I need to put that to the end of this particular div here and stop the center again. Okay, so happier now. Okay, so that's that much done. I'll just quickly save that again. Okay, so the next div that I want in the container, or rather the first div within the container I'm going to put in, is the div for the banner, which is going to put the heading right across the middle. So again, I'm going to set up a div, so it's div ID equals, and I'm just simply going to call this banner. I tend to use very simplistic words to keep it really simple, and therefore you'll always understand what it is you're trying to achieve at that particular point. Again, for this to go in, I need to put it between the two div stops. So again, I'll just put a space there so you can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put an image in here that I've already created, and it's already stored in the images folder for you. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and the tag I'm going to use is image, IMG. The next one is source, src, and again we'll talk again a little bit more about this later on. And equals, and then I have to specify exactly where this image is. So this image is actually in the images folder / and in that folder it's actually called html banner.jpg. And again, this is I'm getting from a list of my images that I've kept to my side here. And again, that's done, and I want to make sure that it does stay at 800. Even though I created this at 800, I want to make sure it stays at 800, and that's why I'm going to put in the width of it, and therefore it will remain at 800 pixels. So 800. So in other words, I want this to go right across the top. And again, I'm going to close out this tag. Again, this is one of the few ones that I can close it at the same time as opening it. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to go quickly over to Internet Explorer, update this, and there we have it. I'll just expand this very quickly so that you can see it sitting nicely in the center. You can also see here we've got a slight problem here, in as much as we've got a gap going on here. So I'm going to quickly just go back to my notepad. I'm going to go back to my style sheet, and I'm going to go back to the body up here. And what I need to do here is I need to put a top margin into the body. So I'm just going to put in here margin top 0 pixels. So in other words, I don't want space. Save that again. We'll just quickly go back over here, update it. As you can see, that small little margin has now gone. Okay, I'll just minimize that ever so slightly there to one side. And now let's go back to our Notepad++. Okay, so now we're going to continue on to the next one. And the next one I want after this particular div is the first navbar. So I'm going to open this up, and it's going to be div space id equals navbar 1. I normally wouldn't put 2 navbars in, but for the sake of this demonstration I've decided to go ahead and do 2. And close that down, close down the div, and again go back and put the information in between the 2 divs. And again, just for sake of you seeing what I'm doing easily, I've clicked it into there. Okay, so then I'm going to put in this instance, home space upper stroke, and again just continue on and put in the text. Later on we'll actually be putting links to this as would normally be seen on any web page. Oops, sorry. Okay, and that's that done. That's brilliant. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back out here and I'll just update this. Again, I can't say enough how very important it is to keep going out to check that what you're doing is correct. Right? I can't tell you how important that is. Okay, so the next one is navbar 2. So I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to open up my div and I'm going to put an ID on it. And the ID I'm going to give this one again is pretty straightforward. Navbar 2. Enter quote, bracket, bracket, close the div, and bracket. And again going back between the 2 brackets, and this navbar is going to go to the side. And I'm just going to put some text here for now, and then I'll change it again later on. This is the side bar for navigation. Okay. So what I need to do now is I need to set navbar up within the style sheet. So I'll just save that for one moment. Go up to my style sheet, and I'm going to set up my style for this. Because what I need to do here is I need to make sure that the navbar actually does stay to the left, is only 150 wide, and only works to the left-hand side where we want it to be, and does not go all the way across. So here what I need to tell it here is I'm going to put a background color on it. Okay, and this background color is going to be all the C's. The width is going to be 150 pixels. I'm going to float it so it goes to the left for us, to the left, and not all over the place. I'm going to align the text within this area and tell it to keep to the left. And the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it that the margin to the top will be slightly down, so because I don't want it sitting directly underneath the words at the top on navbar 1. So I'm going to put 10 pixels in here just for the moment, but I can always come back and again put the squiggly on, and that's done. Now I can see I have a problem here, and why I can see I have a problem is I'm saying to myself, why is width not changing colour? And it's because I forgot to put the semicolon here, so I'll go do that now. And now we've got it more correct. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to go off to my Internet Explorer, update this, and as you can see it's sitting exactly where I would expect it to sit. I'm going to go back now to my notepad and going to put in my main. Might as well stay here and put the main in now, and then go put the main in on the other sheet in a moment. So the main is going to be pretty straightforward. What I'm going to tell it is I want it to have a width of 630, and again 630, 150 is 780. It's give me 20 pixels of a floating area, so hopefully it might look good. Margin top again, and this time I'm only going to put in 5 pixels. Again, I can always come back and change this as and when I need to do it. I want it to float to the right, which is obviously the opposite of the one above, because I want it to be kept to the right, but I also want the text in here to be to the left unless I want it differently. So text to the left, and again the squiggly to shut it down. Okay, and I'll save that, and I'll go back over here and again put the div in here, and I'm going to open it up. Div ID is equal, equal to main, and close it. Lovely. Go back between the two, and I just simply can put in here main area. Okay. Alright, so that's that one done. And the final one I'm going to do is the footer. So I'll put the div in now in here. So I'll open this up and put in div ID equals footer. Okay, and I'm going to close the footer off. Sorry, the div, beg your pardon. That's that done. So in the footer, I'm going to put a line, and underneath it I'm going to put the copyright symbol followed by my name and the year. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just go back to the style sheet and set the footer up in the style sheet. So down here I'm going to put in the footer. Okay. And the first thing in the footer, I want to tell it to clear both. In other words, I don't want it to be able to go up on the page and interfere with either navbar 2 or the main area. So that's what that will do. It'll keep them away. I'm going to put in a line, and I want it to align to the center. Okay, and that should be text align, not align. So text align to the center. And the next one is margin top. Again, I want to have quite a big space here because I don't want it. So I'm going to put 55. And again, don't forget, at any stage you can come back and change all of this. All right. I've already done text align. For some reason that's in twice, so I will put it in again. And then the font size is going to be 80%, and that will be 80% of whatever the body is. And because that is 12, that would be 80% of 12. Okay, and again, it's not written in stone. At any stage we can come back and alter this. And that's that one finished. And we'll just save that quickly. And we shall go back out to the index page and actually put what we want in the footer. Also, this is the first time that you're going to see me put in a horizontal rule, which is nothing more than a straight line. Okay, because like I said, in the lead up to it, you've got to tell it absolutely everything. You can leave nothing to chance because it just won't work. So HI is for horizontal rule. What we're going to tell it here is we want the width of this particular line to be equal to 60%, and that's 60% of the 800. And we want it to be of the color of white. And again, I seldom put it in words, but I just want to show you that you can put the simple words in if you want to, but really seldom used. Words are seldom used. The size is going to be equal to 4, and that's the actual width of the actual line itself, or the thickness of whatever you want to call it. Again, this is one of the few that I can finish the tag element within it, so that's what I'll do here. So that's that done. And again, what I'm going to do now is the copyright symbol, and I'm going to italicize the next few words. So I'm going to open up the tag, put EM for emphasize, which is italics. I'm going to put in the ampersand followed by the word copy, and that encoding is the short version for putting in the copyright symbol, as you'll see very, very shortly, followed by my name and the year 2015. And again, I'm going to stop the italics, and I'm going to finish at that. I think that's all I have to do in this instance, because the div is already finished down here. So I'll just pull that up slightly, again just to keep it neat and tidy. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back out to Internet Explorer. I will F5 to bring it up to scratch, and yes, we can see it there. You can also see that this is pretty tight to here, but until such time as I change this into a heading 1, I think I'll leave it for the time being. And that brings us to the end of this particular part.